It sure seems that a lot of people have understandably bailed on mainstream media, but there is one voice left on cable news that is the prevailing voice of political diagnosis. And every single night, Dr. Rachel Maddow, philosophy, University of Oxford, well, she examines the most important details to offer up a daily checkup of how far the disease of the decline of democracy has progressed. Last night, Rachel offered a ferocious prognosis of Trump's plan to slash $40 billion from the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's be clear, the plan isn't to make the program more efficient, but to eliminate work on the diseases afflicting millions of Americans altogether. And as you'll see, it's enough to make you sick. But Dr. Maddow also examines, a herd immunity approach to the contagions of Trump's agenda as evidenced at growing protests and exploding rallies occurring all across the country. Now, it's a lot to cover, and the doctor is in. Here's Rachel from last night on MSNBC.
Vice President J.D. Vance gave a keynote speech to a national conservatism conference a couple of years ago, and the title of his speech was literally, "The Universities Are the Enemy."
Ladies and gentlemen, the universities do not pursue knowledge and truth. They pursue deceit and lies, and it's time to be honest about that fact.
The title of the speech was literally, "The Universities Are the Enemy." He ended the speech with a quote from Richard Nixon, "Professors are the enemy." And he didn't mean it ironically. They're really not kidding about this stuff. Part of their mission is to use their power in the U.S. government to destroy American higher education, to destroy U.S. colleges and universities, not because of any particular thing that colleges and universities are doing, but just because they think they're bad and they shouldn't exist, and they are going to try to destroy them. They have been saying this for years. Now it is clear we should believe them. Tonight, CNN and the Washington Post are reporting that President Trump has directed the IRS to strip tax-exempt status from Harvard University after Harvard said this week that it would not accede to Trump's threats. It would not enter into some kind of receivership where Donald Trump gets to dictate the school's internal policies and academic decisions. Now, there are, of course, laws about tax-exempt status. The IRS can't legally take it away from a university or from any entity just because Trump pounds his chest and says so. So we'll be talking about that more on tonight's show. But the fact that Trump is trying it tells anybody paying attention that, yeah, now's the time. Move fast, right? Any school that wants to survive what Trump and Vance are doing here, what their agenda is here for American universities and colleges, any school that wants to survive what's coming their way better find a way to not have to fight alone. And so, yes, now we are seeing all kinds of colleges all across the country move toward mutual defense pacts with other schools. Basically, little NATO treaties for all the colleges. An attack on one is an attack on all. I will tell you, I have no connection to any of these efforts, but I would just say as an observer, just speaking strategically, my only note on this might be go faster. Once he's targeted you, it's too late to have a mutual defense treaty in position. You have to have these things in place ahead of time before he signs that executive order or yanks your funding or does whatever he's going to do to you. Time is short. River rises. So we're going to stay on this. We're going to keep you posted. While we are on this subject, though, may I also introduce you to the Federal Workers Legal Defense Network. This is brand new. More than 1,000 lawyers in 42 states have completed training now to defend federal workers from all aspects of what Trump is doing to them in the federal government, not just in lawsuits to challenge Trump's mass, indiscriminate, and in some cases illegal firings of huge swaths of people who work for the U.S. government, but also training on how to provide individual guidance and legal support to individual federal workers who have been fired or otherwise mistreated by the Trump administration. This was convened by civil rights groups, including the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and advocacy groups like Democracy Forward. You keep hearing their name in the news because they've been suing the bejesus out of Trump in this second term. It was also pulled together by unions, including especially the AFL-CIO. They have all now come together to put together this very large 1,000-plus lawyer effort in 42 states, this federal workers legal defense network. And they say their lawyers are trained and it is now up and running. And again, I would just say speed matters in an attempted authoritarian takeover that is trying to go as far as it can, as fast as it can, before the country can properly organize its defenses. Speed matters. That said, even if it hasn't been done already, still do it, right? Even if the best time to have done something like this Federal Workers Legal Defense Network was probably yesterday or a month ago, the second best time to do it is right now. And so, yes, as of today, we've got one. And that means that federal workers are better off today than they were before. In terms of the country standing up its defenses against the authoritarian takeover, the Washington Post tonight was first to report on Trump's plans for what he's going to do to health care. And these plans are draconian enough that I can't help but think that they may have an impact on how many Americans think they've got some skin in the game in terms of whether or not they want to participate in a protest or otherwise take part in some sort of civic activity to say no, to show their dissent, to register their disapproval of what Trump is doing. Because what the Washington Post is reporting on Trump's plans for health care, this is Trump's plans for health care after the 10,000 people that he just fired from HHS. On top of those 10,000 people fired from HHS, Trump's new plan is reportedly to cut another $40 billion from U.S. healthcare and health research. That's fully a third of what the United States spends on healthcare and research. Trump wants to cut all of the CDC's work, for example, on heart disease and obesity and diabetes and smoking and HIV. You think that might galvanize people in this country? Trump is not saying he wants to trim these programs or make them more efficient. The plan, according to this document published by the Washington Post, the plan is to eliminate the CDC's work on heart disease, obesity, diabetes, smoking, HIV. Yeah, because it's not like any of us know anybody who has any one of those issues, right? No one within the sound of my voice right now has any connection to anyone with heart disease, right? Have you ever even heard of that? Heart disease? Does that sound like a foreign concept? I mean, Americans will sure be glad that Donald Trump forced the United States of America to stop working on heart disease altogether because, yeah, none of us have ever heard of anybody having a heart attack, right? None of us have anybody in our families or anybody we're connected to who's got problems with cholesterol or high blood pressure, right? That's really exotic stuff, right? Yeah, obesity. Americans have no idea what that is. We've got no personal connection to that. Thank God Donald Trump is going to save us from the waste of the U.S. government working on those woke liberal problems like diabetes. This was Missoula, Montana today. In deep red state Montana, Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders turning out more than 9,000 people today. Look at this. Look at that crowd. Middle of the day on a Wednesday in Montana. Yesterday in California, AOC and Bernie turned out over 10,000 people in Bakersfield, California, and 26,000 people in Folsom, California. This is not like San Francisco or Oakland or Berkeley. This is not a liberal enclave in California. And they turned out 26,000 people in Folsom.
You know, I heard that someone started flying a plane with a banner that said, this is Trump country. It sure don't look like it today. I don't think this is Trump country. I think this is our country.
was Folsom, California, in a Republican congressional district yesterday. This was the day before that, Monday, in Ruby Red, Idaho, a sold-out capacity crowd of 12,500 people. Look at this. In Nampa, Idaho. This was the day before that in Ruby Red, Utah. 20,000 people turning out to see Bernie and AOC in Salt Lake City. This was the day before that in Los Angeles. Senator Bernie Sanders, his office saying that this crowd that turned out drop the chyron there so people can see the crowd. Thank you.
You know, we try to draw from as many local and international sources these days outside of mainstream media. That offers unique perspective and insight on the news of the day, closer to the truth maybe. But Rachel is always a go-to because of her commitment and exhaustive research. I mean, she's smart, she's witty, she's compassionate. She's all the things MAGA loathes. Probably because, as my mother would say, they're just jealous. I mean, look at them.